Behind us are three icons of the off-road world, and we are going to test them off-road.
It's true. Now, before we get started, we should clarify it's not a traditional comparison here. We're just collecting these ones to see how they live up to those historic nameplates, starting with the newest member, the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, Toyota is hailing this as a lighter, smaller, more affordable, more efficient version than previous ones, but at least here, it's still the sophisticated choice.
And at the complete opposite end of the spectrum is the Jeep Rubicon Wrangler. Now, it's the Rubicon, which is the top trim for off-roading. It's got a 6.4 liter V8, it's painted Tuscadero pink, and it's loud as hell.
Not as loud, but still really drawing the eyeballs, is the Ford Bronco two-door, here in the Heritage Special Edition. Now, it does what the Blue Oval does so well, which is really playing on the history of its iconic nameplate.
So we're gonna take the three on the trails, and hopefully we don't get stuck in any sand or mud, so let's go. We'll get you back to the off-roaders comparison in a second, but first let's take a moment to talk about protecting your vehicle. Custom made for an exact fit, WeatherTech offers complete protection for your vehicle's interior, which is extra important with mud-loving SUVs like these. There's the original WeatherTech floor liner and new floor liner HP made from a more flexible material. Both work with your OE floor mat clips and protect up the side of your footwell. Plus, the floor liner HP comes with these spikes for even better grip. And let's not forget the cargo liner, which is great to protect your vehicle from everything you might need to throw in the back during your next off-road adventure. All WeatherTech products come with a lifetime guarantee. You can order online at weathertech.ca and free shipping is available. Or for those who are local, they can visit the WeatherTech retail showroom at 1164 Walker's Line in Burlington and get their orders the same day. Do you not like your neighbors? Do you want to wake up baby deer and make the bears angry? This is the car for you. As we mentioned, this is the Rubicon 392, which is the absolute top dog of the range. It means it gets all the great off-road bits, like the 35-inch tires that are 315/70 on 17-inch wheels that are bead lock ready. It has a locking front differential, locking rear differential, off-road plus mode. The sway bar can be disconnected. We're not really going to be using any of that stuff and putting it that much to a test because it's not ours and we don't want to damage anything. But back to the engine. So it makes 470 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty ridiculous for an off-road Wrangler. But, you know, why not have a little bit of everything? Because it has the performance exhaust, you can make it as loud or quiet as you want. The other two don't offer that, but the other two don't have nearly the same soundtrack this does. Back to the off-roading, there's the off-road pages, there's obviously four-wheel high and four-wheel low and hill descent control and all the bits you'd expect. Now, a serious off-roader isn't going to buy this because they'll probably buy a used Jeep and put on all the parts they want. But for someone who wants a daily driver that can also do more moderate off-roading, that's what this vehicle is designed for. Other features that it comes with, it does have dual power front seats, which are nice. It has navigation, air conditioning, it has all the active safety stuff, which is not always expected in something that's purposely built to off-road. They've come a long way. This isn't like a Wrangler of 10 years ago. It's sort of an everything vehicle. It even has the sky roof, which allows you to open up the roof without taking off the roof. But the downside to all that, of course, is price. As tested, this is over $100,000 US. So you gotta kind of pay to get the best Wrangler on the market, but it is the final edition. And after this, no more 392. And who knows if this pink color will ever come back. Some things that need to be called out is the infotainment system. It's the latest version of Uconnect, which I've always been a fan of every version. But the thing I like the most is there are buttons and dials for basically every control. All the climate control has buttons. There's a tuning dial, a volume dial, a fan dial. The window switches are all here in the center console. There's USB and USB-C plugs. It's just got a little everything. And if you want to buy more accessories, like we have the Warn winch on it already, there's 4 preset auxiliary buttons ready for maybe light bars, who knows what. Two things that are missing, especially at the price that this goes for. The big one is there's no wireless phone charger. I get it's kind of hard to fit one in here somewhere, but I mean, the Bronco has one. Maybe they could have squeezed it in. And there's no ventilated front seat, which again isn't a big deal in a Jeep, but for the price, Toyota has one. The Jeep could have one. There are a lot of seats in the Mopar parts bin that have a ventilation feature, and there's some extra holes here to put buttons, just saying.
Like Mike said, there are a whole bunch of features in here to make off-roading, well, just more approachable and easier for even novices. I mean, not that novices are going to be getting the six-figure V8 powered Wrangler, but still, you can get a lot of these things on the regular Rubicon as well. It is, of course, super accomplished on these trails. I'm not pushing very hard, doing anything today. In fact, we took this up the climb, staying in 4 auto. Really easy. But the important thing here, driving the 392, is this engine. That's the entire reason you're getting this thing, because it sounds incredible and it's so much fun and it's so very American. So American that when I got in, it first sneered at my Canadianness and then went, America. Now, Wranglers catch a lot of flack for being, well, vague and slightly barn-like to drive out on the road, but the important thing here is off-road, it's in its element. It's really easy to place, and yeah, there's a lot of play in the steering, but that actually makes it easier for you to make small adjustments on the trail. The main trouble that the Wrangler faces, at least in this trio, and again, this is not a comparison, it's just a fact, it's a long SUV. So if you're on a narrow trail and you have to make some tight turns, you might have an Austin Powers sort of moment there. The other thing that I really enjoy driving the Wrangler on the trail is the brake pedal. On the road, it feels a little squishy, but here, just like the steering, it gives you enough fine tuning that you can really feel it out. If you're heading down a hill and you don't want to use any of the automatic hill descent controls or various assists, you have trust in the Wrangler, and the Wrangler has your back. You can do whatever you want in this. I feel like a superhero. That's basically the Wrangler's entire MO.
It's incredible how closely matched the Bronco is to the Wrangler. They both have 11.6 inches of ground clearance. They both have the exact same 35-inch tire. That's a 315/70 R17. They're both just fully capable. Inside, like the Wrangler, there's a lot of tech that you maybe wouldn't be expecting in a two-door off-roader. It's got all the standard safety features like adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, all those good things. It has a wireless phone charger, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a huge display screen, a digital dash, but it is missing a power seat. It does have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, and no ventilated seats, but the price is much lower than, say, the Wrangler. But I just find it odd that there's no power seat. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but I think customers would expect it at this point. Being the second highest trim, the Premium Heritage comes with a 2.7-liter turbocharged V6 engine. Although it makes a lot less horsepower and less torque than the engine found in the Wrangler, it's quite responsive. There's a lot of low-end torque. And on the highway even, this sort of brick wall shaped vehicle accelerates well above posted speed limits if so desired, I guess. Although it may not win the horsepower wars, it does win the gear wars. This has 10 forward speeds, which may seem a little bit like overkill, but you know what, it works. Sometimes when you really want power, it takes a while to kick down, but otherwise it's a pretty smooth transmission. Of course, there's four-wheel low with a real transfer case. Like the Jeep, there's four-wheel high, but there's also four-wheel auto, and you can even put this in two-wheel drive mode. The usability of this car is there as well. Once again, there's lots of hard buttons. I have my full climate control buttoned. There's 2 dials for the dual zone climate control. There's a toggle for the fan speed. The radio has a volume knob and a tuning knob. There's a couple quick shortcut buttons as well between them. This one-ups, or I guess two-ups, the Wrangler with 6 auxiliary switches ready to go. And of course, there's the standard charging ports for your different devices. Maybe my favorite feature in the vehicle are the grab handles built into the side of each dash. They're very solid, they have a nice rubberized grip, and they actually really help with getting into the vehicle. Being a two-door, the rear seat's pretty tight, but it's bigger than you might expect, and getting in and out of it actually isn't that bad for a high-riding two-door SUV. Of course, the sacrifice with going with a two-door is you can only seat 2 people in the back, so it goes from a 5-seater to a 4-seater.
It feels kind of lazy to talk about how the Bronco is midway between the other two in terms of driving experience, but, well, it just kind of is. It's not a hybrid, it's not a wicked V8, it's just a smooth, powerful, and torquey V6. So it's reasonably powerful. I'd say it's not as responsive off the line as the Land Cruiser because that has the benefit of electric assistance, but it's still got a fair amount of power. This 10-speed is very smooth. It does what I need, when I need it, even off-road. Also, of course, one of the main advantages here of driving the Bronco is that it is a two-door, and that just gives me really excellent sight lines. I love the little bits on the quarters up front, so I know exactly where the ends of the Bronco are. I have huge square mirrors, so I can see behind me, including the top of the back of my roof, which is important if you're clearing under some low branches. It steers nicely. It's a little more well-mannered than the Wrangler, not just because that monstrous engine, but I just mean in the steering. It's just a little cleaner and a little more direct and positive. So with almost a foot of ground clearance, just like the Jeep, the Bronco is very capable off-road, especially on what amounts to a pretty easy trail here. There is very robust protection underneath, so all your most important bits down below are safe. And again, because it's a two-door, it has a short wheelbase, so this is easily the most maneuverable vehicle here. I mean, it is very wide, but beyond that, it's just such a friendly vehicle. It doesn't feel quite as aggressive as the Jeep, even though it does have a whole lot of fun off-road features that make it even more accomplished. It just feels a little more modern. The Wrangler is impressive because it's never really changed, it's got better at what it's done. But the Bronco offers its own slightly different take on off-roading.
Coming into this comparison feature, whatever you'd like to call it, we knew this was probably going to be the least capable off-road. It has the smallest ground clearance and the most street-based tires. But for what we did, it was perfectly fine. We didn't really push things because we didn't want to damage any of the vehicles. We just wanted to see if they could handle some mildly moderate off-road. And what surprised us is not only did this have no problem, it's still so comfortable. The other vehicles have to be sprung with certain ground clearance to handle some really crazy obstacles, whereas this doesn't. It knows its limitations, and the suspension design is softer and able to handle roads that are just full of mild potholes. It's also the quietest even off-road, which is no surprise because it's the quietest on-road. But during our hill climb, I thought there we might start spinning the odd wheel. I had no doubt it wouldn't make it up, but I thought it would struggle a bit, and it didn't. So if it isn't a very slick hill, this will pull itself up no problem. I mean, it is still a four-wheel drive vehicle, and as we've been saying this whole video, you can upgrade the tires, and that's going to really transform the capabilities of the vehicle, but they're already quite good. As crazy as it sounds, this is less like a Jeep and a Bronco, and it's more like a baby Land Rover, like a mainstream Defender. It's not quite as capable, but it's close. It has similar looks, and it's still a fully practical vehicle. If hauling a family across a farm road or a really beat up cottage road, or even maybe a seldom used trail up the hill, this would be our choice for sure, because it'll handle that and it'll do it in the most comfort with the least amount of complaining.
Now, it probably shouldn't come as a surprise that after driving those two, getting into the Land Cruiser sort of makes you feel like you need to lift your pinky. It's definitely the fancier of all three, the sophisticated choice, like I said earlier. And, while that might be a detriment to some who think every weekend is Moab, to live with, this is pretty sweet. There's a whole bunch of features here. I have memory seats, power adjustable seats, I should say, Ford. I have heated and ventilated seats up front, which is a huge benefit on hotter days. You also don't miss out on a lot of the off-road features that you get in the other vehicles too, even if this is lacking the ground clearance that they have. So I have lockable center and rear diffs, I have a downhill assist, a crawl assist, multi-terrain select, which is very handy. They're all easily accessible by a row of buttons down by the shifter. You just rotate the knob to pick whatever you need to. It's very user-friendly. Another nice feature that all of the vehicles have here is the front-facing camera. It's basically like having your own little spotter that you can call on particularly challenging bits of trail. The problem that I have with it, and I've complained about this a few times in the Land Cruiser now, is that it turns off after just a couple miles per hour. That's great in some cases, but otherwise it's just frustrating. Well, if we're going to talk other features, because again, the Land Cruiser has a whole bunch to offer. It has 2 big screens, one in front of the driver and the main touchscreen. You have a wireless charger. Like I said, it just feels very sophisticated. I know it's not as fancy as the Lexus and all but name previous generation, and we thought that all of these features would make it a detriment, but in fact, if you're gonna live with it day to day, I kind of want all this. One thing I do wish the Land Cruiser did better though is that it just had a nicer, flashier interior. This is the first edition. This is the top limited production one, and yet from here, all I can really see is, oh, this little cushion by my arm. It says first edition. Cool, I guess. The quality isn't really here, and I mean, no one's buying any of these vehicles for quality, but if you look at, say, the Bronco and its very fun and colorful and inviting interior, I just wish there was a little more of that here. While the Land Cruiser does lack the huge chunky controls that the Americans have, I do really like the dual plane row of buttons that is in the center console. It's still physical controls, so it's still easy to learn, and it fits a lot of controls in a pretty small space.
So after many days off-roading and on-roading with these 3 SUVs, I think the Wrangler really does live up to its nameplate. I mean, it's never really changed. It's still the uncompromising off-road monster it always was. It's a ton of fun. The Bronco, it is like the old Bronco. It's reborn that sort of same sense of adventure, open air motoring, and all that.
It's true. And weirdly enough, the Toyota doesn't follow its historic footsteps because it's not a rudimentary tractor like the original, and it's not a Lexus with a different badge like the last one. No, it actually forms a whole new path, and it finds a really great balance between those two extremes.
Okay, saying all that, which of these 3 is your pick to take home?
Well, that's tough, Mike. Before this, I wouldn't have expected it, but after driving them, it's the Bronco. I mean, it looks cool as can be, and it's just that little bit better to drive all around than the Wrangler, and so yeah, that's my choice.
Yeah, I can't argue. I got the most attention in that thing everywhere I went. I got compliments. If it's me though, and of course money's no object, there's just something about that Wrangler that I just love. The 392s last year, the sound and the power from that V8, that cool pink paint job, the roof that opens without having to take the whole roof off. It's just so much fun. But I think we can both agree, for those who don't need the kind of capability the Wrangler and Bronco have, the Land Cruiser's the best bet because it's more comfortable for your passengers, it's better on gas, and it's still pretty capable. So it really comes down to what you need. If you need a lot of capability, Wrangler Bronco, personal pick. If you need practicality mixed with capability, can't go wrong with that Land Cruiser.